Imagine being vegan during a time when you wrote a book around vegan recipes and you could not use the word vegan. That's exactly what happened to today's guest. Light is a 52-year vegan and co-founder of Gentle World, which he started with his late wife's son. Gentle World began in the 1970s as a vegan intentional community and became a nonprofit 501c3 educational organization in 1981 with the publication of the first full-length vegan cookbook in the United States, The Cookbook for People Who Love Animals. Gentle World now has a 50-year history of providing vegan education to the public, including the publication of 2 recipe books, a visitor program located at their centers in Hawaii and New Zealand, and the development of an information and inspiring website that provides educational content about the reason for being vegan and how to make the transition. You're in for a great treat with my guest today, Light. So stick around.
Welcome to the Vegan Visibility Podcast Show, where your host, Kathleen Gage, shines the spotlight on vegan and plant-based businesses and entrepreneurs from all walks of life committed to cruelty-free eating, healthy lifestyles, animal compassion, and the environment. Enjoy the show.
Well, Light, I have to say that I'm truly honored to have you on the Vegan Visibility Podcast Show. You are one of the originals. You've been vegan for 52 years. You and your late wife started an organization called Gentle World. And I would love to hear what it was like when you first became vegan, and what were people's perceptions? How were people treating you as a vegan? And just kind of give us a snapshot of what it was like over a half century ago.
Yeah. Funny you should ask. It was total obscurity, including us. We didn't even know there was a word. We had never heard of anyone going beyond vegetarian into dairy and silk and leather and all that. So we kind of thought we invented the idea. And as far as how people treated us, well, family thought we would die because we weren't getting animal protein, which at the time was thought to be the only source of protein. Friends left us en masse. I don't know if I had an old friend left, including some family for that matter. It seems we frightened people, or the truth of us, that we had come to frighten people. See, I thought at the time all I had to do was tell my friends, look, I just discovered this Holocaust that's going on. They're killing animals. We don't have to. We can eat vegetables and fruits and things. And they would listen, but that isn't what happened. They ran like I was some kind of monster with these new ideas. It was very sad at the time, but that's how the commune started. We got so that my mother, who was a chef, she used to sneak animal product like animal gravy into our food because they thought we would die. Of course, that's not what happened at all. But it just changed everything in our lives. And pretty soon we had to stop eating with other people. And then if we told some people, usually young people, and they agreed with us, eventually we all got together and formed what was called a commune back then. Didn't become a popular word, thanks to the media. Started calling them cults, which is a misnomer. A cult is any group of people that agree to, like Catholicism or anything. A group of people who agree with the same principles. That's what it was, and that's what we were, but not in the sense that they made it.
So I'm curious, when you talked about the Holocaust of the animals, because it's amplified, it's worse today than ever before, and there are people that they just choose to turn a blind eye to that. Back 52 years ago, how did you discover what was happening to animals? And the treatment was probably different than it is now. I would love kind of a history lesson in what it was like back then, how you came to understand. And it was like your spiritual drive, I would imagine, is what led you in that direction.
Okay, well, this is kind of how it happened. When at the time, future wife and I got together, we decided that we would spend our lives seeking the truth. And when we found it, more than finding it, we would live it. So the first thing that happened is we went to rent a house in the Midwest, somewhere in Nebraska, Iowa. And there was a huge bull in a field. I sat in a chair and I just looked at him. He was a magnificent creature. And I saw it like tears, what seemed to be, and that looked like tears to me, coming down from his eyes. And I'm saying to myself, why is this beautiful creature crying? And eventually it dawned on me what he had to cry about, which was pretty much everything in his life. Now, shortly after that, my wife and I went to a movie. I think it was called Mondo Cane, Dog's World.
Mm-hmm.
Goes way back. And in there, they had a scene of all the craziness in the world, dueling societies, and just nutness that's rampant in the world. And one of the things they had was 4 men in fishing boots, those wading boots, come up to their chest, and they were hitting a bull over the head with sledgehammers, each one of them. As hard as they could hit, it was terrible. The poor creature was huge. He didn't go down right away, and he's screaming, and they're hitting him and hitting him. Finally, he must have been 50 blows. He went down. And my wife and I came out of the theater and said, is that how they get meat? Well, that's a truth we've discovered, and it's one we have to live. And I was a big meat. My mother was a chef. I was a big meat eater.
Mm-hmm.
And from that moment on, we stopped eating all meat. We didn't even think about dairy until about, it must have been 2 years later. We were in upstate New York, living near a famous, at the time, famous dairy farm. So we figured, well, we were eating a lot of dairy. Let's go visit, see how they treat the animals. Well, we didn't go where they want you to go. You know, they give you like a tour where they want you to go. Well, we went behind the scenes, and we heard this cow bellowing, crying, and screaming. We said to the woman, what's going on? She said, well, you get used to it. They took her baby away, but she'll only do that for about 3 weeks, and you get used to it. We said, well, we don't want to get used to it, and we left, and that was the end of dairy. We just stopped right there. We thought we would never have ice cream again. We thought we would never have milkshakes again, which we didn't for years.
Right.
So we invented our own.
Interesting. And you also wrote the cookbook for people who love animals. Tell me about that book.
Well, that was the first all vegan. 10 Talents was on the market. It was the only other. And Jay Dinshaw, it was more like a booklet. And 10 Talents had something in it, I forget what, that was not 100% vegan. We were the first 100% vegan cookbook. And it was originally called the Cookbook for People Who Really underscored love animals. But they didn't like the publisher didn't like that. And he wouldn't let us use the word vegan because nobody knew what it meant at the time. That's a major change in the world, I see. So that was the first cookbook. It was the only cookbook, the totally vegan cookbook on the market. You know, it sat by itself on the shelf.
There's your baby. Oh, we love dogs. We love dogs. So no problem at all.
Ricky Gervais, I always like to throw this in, who's a dog lover, a famous comedian. He said, if a dog could talk, he would say, you need a kidney? That's great. That's what they would say.
So now is the book still available, the cookbook for people who love animals?
It's still available. And I believe over the years, we've sold about 100,000 of them.
Nice.
Book that we still get letters saying that somebody changed their lives from that book. And see, our aim back then, again, and my mother was not a vegan, a chef. So food was very important to us. And the first time we ate what was a vegan meal, it was healthy, but it was bland, really bland. So we decided that that's not going to help anybody turn away from what they're eating to eating vegan. So we became the food people, kind of famous for being the food people. And we would on Thanksgiving, we would invite every vegan we knew in Florida, which at the time was about 75, 80 of them, to a Thanksgiving dinner, in which, of course, everything was vegan. It was quite a scene to have all these people. We had a huge hallway, and the table was like one of those tables you see in the movies where they have these meetings. It was huge. Anyway, that was thrilling. It's been a slow development. I thought in the early years it would take 10 years
Right.
for America to change because it was a truth. It was so obvious.
Well, let me ask you this, because it seems that the pandemic did amplify the opportunity for people to learn about veganism. And you have those people that they just don't get it and they ridicule vegans. And, I think that will always just be a part of what is going on in the world. But how is it different today from what you see going on because of social media and YouTube and podcast shows? How is it different today than it was 52 years ago? Or is it different?
It is extremely different. And I don't think it's worse. I think it's much better, especially with the younger people. We have these people, young people generally who come, it's like a work program that we didn't start, but we started doing about 15 years ago. And when they first came to us, young people, I'd say 85% weren't vegan and never heard of vegan.
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays, I'd say it's about 80% become vegan. And also it's gone from 85% male to about 85% female for some reason. I think it's just that females are coming out of that masculine shadow that had covered them for many centuries.
Very well could be. Very well could be. I want to remind people that you're listening to the Vegan Visibility Podcast Show. I'm your host, Kathleen Gage, and I'm talking with Light, who is the co-founder of Gentle World, which is a vegan intentional community. I love that. Vegan intentional community. Tell us about Gentle World. It's still going strong. How many members do you have? Are they worldwide? What's the whole premise of Gentle World?
Well, at one time, at the most number of people we had was 35 at one time. See, back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, even the early 80s, communal living was an accepted, especially among young people, was an accepted way of living. Of course, I see the world as a community, but they just don't know it.
Right.
They're very far from it. But the truth is, if everybody got together, especially these poor people who are downtrodden, if they'd only learn to live together, economically, it's a godsend, and health-wise, in all ways, there's no negative about it. There's certain things like veganism is a panacea. People don't like to use that word, but it's the truth. It's good. There's nothing it's negative for. It's good for your health. It's good for the planet. It's good for the animals. That's an unusual thing to be something that's good for everything. And I think it's come a long way. I see, as I said in the beginning, we didn't even know there was a word. And now I go into a supermarket and I see the word vegan stamped on food and even on TV, where they always used to make fun. Anybody had tofu, they would make fun of it, unless it's not the programs I watch. But they don't make fun of it so much. And I think that's the most hopeful thing. It's by far the most hopeful thing I see going on in the world, because that's what's going to change people's consciousness. See, the people who are not vegan, they don't realize. They think it's a diet. They think it's this, it's whatever. The truth is, it's not just a diet. It's a way of living. It's ahimsa. It's not harming anything.
Right.
So that changes, and the food itself, it changes the cells in your brain. I was a guy like everybody else. When I was 18 years old, I had a pack of cigarettes or a Coke bottle, and I was in a car and I wanted to get rid of it. I threw it away out the window. And of course, part of that cellular changes. When you go for a walk, you take a bag with you so you can take the garbage away. That's just an example of how your mind changes. They don't realize. As long as people are the tiger in the world, there's going to be war, there's going to be dissent, there's going to be competition, because they kill to eat. And it's not something they have to do. We're not tigers. It's not something, even a tiger doesn't have to do it.
Right.
I read a story. The internet, by the way, has been a great, great help. Again, especially for young people who look at it more than older people. But it shows animals in a different light, and it also shows the horrors that go on, which I never knew as a kid. Nobody ever
Right.
showed me in slaughterhouse. I had no awareness of it. The leg of lamb was a leg of lamb, LEGO apostrophe lamb.
Right.
It was a leg. In our first cookbook, we actually had a page where we put in there the real terms: leg of lamb, chicken breasts, just the words as they are: thigh, chicken thigh, baby lamb chops. And that was the only time we got a letter that was nasty about our cookbook. Some woman wrote and said, "How dare you?" And all we were doing is just calling them by the names they were using.
Right.
She didn't like that. She gave our cookbook back to us.
Well, I'm curious with the energy of what people put into their body, because that's something that I really came to terms with once I crossed that line of I am vegan, is when we put that death and suffering and pain and anguish and anxiety and the steroids and the antibiotics in our body, it's going to wreak havoc on our system. So what's your perspective and your belief around the spiritual side of veganism?
It's all spiritual. It's the most spiritual. Anyway, when I hear all these people on the radio telling all their stories about this being spiritual, that being spiritual, I ask myself, are you vegan? They talk about gentleness, they talk about compassion, and they're not vegan. It'd be like being in Nazi Germany in 1943 and talking about compassion and being pro-Hitler, allowing what they were doing to Jews, but not only Jews, anybody who they didn't like.
Right.
A way of dealing with them, which is kind of final. Where it's the worst contaminator of the air.
Right.
That's known even in the public. That's known that it's worse than all these smokestacks, all the airplanes, all the trucks. And then you get people on the radio, they're talking about how to cure this problem. They never mention the animals. So right away, talk about an elephant in a room, that's a cow in the room, and they don't mention it. Well, how could they deal with that if they're not mentioning the worst offender in the world? It's the worst offender of global warming in the world. That's the word I was looking for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for people who really just don't know, that, it seems, that most people would know, but there are people that really don't know. And when you have conversations with them, they're like, I didn't realize it was that bad. What's a great way to have a conversation with somebody to give them information without judging them, but to meet them where they're at? What would you say is one of the best ways that we can do that?
I guess with understanding that I was there once where they are. I had no idea about these things. In the beginning, I guess all of us did, because we were so kind of angry and upset with we had no idea what they're doing. It's terrible. But when we realized that didn't work, just got people upset. That's one of the ways we became vegan, my wife and I. We would say to people, you're eating animals, they're killing them. They say, yeah, well, you're wearing leather. Mm-hmm. And we'd come away and we'd say, well, they're right. So we didn't like them saying it, but they were right. That's one of the reasons we started we actually buried our leather.
Interesting. Interesting.
A service, we would say, I guess what you would call a prayer. We had an interesting thing. And when we found out what down was, down feathers and pillows and things, we were in Colorado. We climbed the mountain with our pillows, down pillows. We slit them open on top of a mountain and we shook them out.
Wow.
For a final flight. And to watch those white feathers floating down from that high mountain, it was thrilling.
That's amazing.
Thrilling.
That's amazing.
We used to fly banners. We lived in Florida for a long time. And we would fly a banner behind a plane for spring break when all the kids were there from college. And we'd say, Thanksgiving is murder on turkeys. And then my wife and I would go around with a microphone like we were reporters and ask the kids, what they thought about that. You know, it's strange. You never know what the effects are of things you do. I wonder if someday I will know, but I see what's happening in the world. It's become just so much more commonplace.
Right, right. Now, how do people find you, Light? What's your web address, and where can they get more information about Gentle World?
I'm going to have to turn to my technical assistant.
Okay.
This is Angel.
Oh, hello.
Hi, Angel. Come on, and if you could give us the web address where people can get more information on Gentle World.
Yes, of course. It's gentleworld.org.
Okay.
We're on Facebook as Gentle World, and we're on Instagram as Gentle World.
Excellent. And we'll put that all in the show notes. And now, what is your role in the organization of Gentle World?
Well, I'm the outreach director. So
Okay.
part of the all of our online education. We recently released an ebook, which we can also give you the link to.
Yep, please do.
Yep. And I do our social media and also help to coordinate the visitor program here.
Excellent. Excellent. And you're in Hawaii right now, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Wonderful. Well, I need to come and visit for sure, because I've been, after my mother, when my mother transitioned, I went to Hawaii. I went to Kauai, and it was a real healing process for me. So that was about 10 years ago. So.
Oh, we'll have to have you come for a visit.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And what island are you on?
The big one.
Okay. Okay. So now, with all the changes that are going on, like myself, what I do is I bring on people like yourself to share your message with the community. And then we just do whatever we can to spread that message all over. What can people do to raise awareness around veganism and to really do it in a way, again, that it's more embracing than it is judgmental?
Well, again, the hope is in the internet. That's the form of communication nowadays. It used to be person to person, but now it's with the fingers.
Right.
It's just the truth of it. That's what's going to win out. It's simply the truth. And the truth is it already is. It's winning out. I don't see it as being worse. I really see it from where I come from 52 years ago. There's no question to me it's better. It was totally obscure. Nobody ever heard of the word vegan. They wouldn't let us publish a book with the word vegan. They had to say totally vegetarian. So it's come from that to, I see it everywhere. You know, I hear it, I see it, TV and the radio. Vegan has become a common word. I think our dog wants it.
Okay, well, the dog is, what is your dog's name?
We have two dogs. This is Freedom, who's a half hour from being what they call euthanized. I talk about a misnomer. Yeah, euthanization entails the okay from the person being euthanized. That's a crucial part of it. If the person isn't okay with it, then it's truly murder.
Right.
Euthanization. And I never knew a dog who said, okay, unless, of course, they were hopelessly ill.
Right.
Never said, okay, kill me because nobody wants to adopt me. I never heard of that.
Mm.
So both our dogs are, all our dogs have been rescued. All our dogs for 40 years have been vegan.
That's wonderful.
Lived, I mean, never long enough. Dogs don't live long enough no matter what.
Right.
But they live to that normal 16, 15, 17.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, and we only do rescues also. It's like we have dogs, a cat, we've had a ferret, a goat, we have horses, and they're all rescues. It's like, you know, they kind of show up on our property. We're in Oregon and they show up on our property. It's like, okay, you're part of the family. So, well, Light, I have to say, this has really been amazing. It's truly been an honor to be talking with you. And in closing, what are your thoughts for people? What can you leave them with that could be literally food for thought?
Food for thought, yeah. That's our second dog, asking to get in. They're miracles to me. If somebody said to me there have been angels on the earth when you're there, you know who they
Absolutely.
are? In my mind, they would be dogs. Okay, guys, you can come in.
final words.
Final words. On the spiritual side, there is no spiritual without compassion,
Right.
empathy. What's spiritual if you're going around eating the leg of an animal that cried and didn't want to be killed? There's nothing other spiritual other than that. It's like Heinrich Himmler being spiritual because he goes to church every Sunday. It's absurd. And people don't realize their very spirits will change. Everything about them will change, all for the better. Health, no question. Everything in their lives will be better. I wish I could push a button and make everybody vegan even for an hour or for a week. No, when I speak to these young people, I say, that aren't vegan, I say, try it for a week. Don't think in terms of forever. Whenever you make a change, it could be anything. You don't think in terms of forever because that's daunting. You think, I'm going to try it for 2 weeks. And in those 2 weeks, the truth of it is going to change them. The truth of it and the cellular change in their bodies. But I would say, when you're speaking to people, just have them commit for a period of time. Don't make it forever and you're going to change. You'll never see a piece of brisket again. That's too much for them. Mm-hmm. Just 2 weeks there. I've had this happen. Oprah did a thing where Oprah Winfrey, mm-hmm. She don't have to use her last name anymore, but she had her whole crew, a crew of, I don't know, 80 people. They tried veganism, I think, for 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing to me because they all came on with good reports. One woman said, I hadn't gone to the bathroom in a week and a half and I was normal. And another woman said, I lost 20 pounds. Another woman, and they were all great. Everybody was great, except as far as I know, I don't know who continued it. It was a strange mystery to me. Something makes you better. I've seen people, I had a friend, an actor, he lost about 80 pounds. And then it's that peer pressure. It's very heavy with people who are in professions where they have a lot of peers. And anyway, he went back, put back the 80 pounds. And anyway, going back is an impossible. I can't even imagine going back. Going back would be like, I don't know, somebody who is a killer is stopping because they came to the truth and then saying, well, I kind of have the urge again. It's an absurdity. The whole world's an absurdity. It's the only thing that's not absurd.
Right.
That I see in this world. And as far as I'm concerned, it's the only hope. It's the only thing that's going to make people gentle. It's the only thing that's going to change their way of thinking from being a predator to being a grower. A grower and a picker. That's a lot better than a killer.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I'm very hopeful. It's pretty much the only thing I hope for in this. I've never seen the country like this. I'm sure you haven't either. I started out with Roosevelt. And none of them are pussycats, that's for sure. And if you have cats, you know that's literally true. But they certainly weren't what it is today. My God, what's going on? And then the killing. I tell these young people who are 19, 20, I said, you think mass killing and school shooting are something that's been around. I said, when I was in college even, there was no such thing as school shootings or mass killing. Somebody just killed 10 people. Mm-hmm. They were black. Mm-hmm. Yes. The world is going nuts, except not going. It's been there a long time.
Right.
But the only thing I see that's not going nuts, is going in a positive direction, is veganism.
I so appreciate that you brought that up because that really is something that I've been thinking a lot about because just today there was another shooting, 14 school children, elementary age, and a teacher. And it's just like the world is upside down. And it seems that when we can live in a place of kindness and gentleness and not bringing harm to any sentient being, including ourselves, then the world can start to heal. So, Light, thank you so very much for sharing your insights. It's been delightful, truly an honor. And so where did you get that shirt?
In the vegan, Keegan Kuhn, who's just done so much for the movement, Cowspiracy and what the health. And anyway, he gave me this shirt. It says, "The future is vegan."
I love it. I love it. Keegan the Vegan gave you "The Future is Vegan." I just so appreciate what you're doing. And I want to remind people you've been listening to the Vegan Visibility Podcast Show. I'm your host, Kathleen Gage, wishing you a very compassionate, enlightened, kind day. Have a great day.
Thank you for this opportunity.
You've been listening to the Vegan Visibility Podcast Show. Be sure to subscribe to get notified when the next episode is live. And we always appreciate reviews. Join us next time for more inspiration, education, and motivation to build your business one cruelty-free and healthy person at a time.